The stars around Europa Station burned with an eerie silence as 300 Crythian warships assembled into their killing formation. Commander Jake Morrison stood at the observation deck of the massive orbital station and watched the alien fleet move closer with each passing minute. His hands gripped the railing hard enough to hurt, but he did not care anymore. 20,000 colonists lived and worked on this station, and every single one of them was about to die. Captain Lisa Hayes sat in the command chair of the USS Defender, one of only 12 human frigates positioned between the station and the approaching alien armada. Her tactical display showed impossible odds that made her want to laugh at the absurdity of it all. 300 against 12 was not a battle, it was an execution. She had already watched the USS Ranger and the USS Valiant get torn apart by Crythian plasma weapons in the opening exchange. The alien technology was simply too advanced and too powerful for human shields to withstand. Back on Earth, Admiral Peter Grant coordinated the desperate defense from his command center deep beneath the surface. He stared at the holographic display showing every human fleet position across colonized space and felt his stomach turn to ice. Every major battle group was deployed hundreds of light years away, fighting smaller Crythian raids that he now realized were nothing but distractions. The aliens had planned this perfectly, and humanity had walked right into the trap. Europa Station would fall, and there was nothing he could do to stop it. Lieutenant Danny Coleman sat at his sensor station aboard the defense platform and cycled through scan after scan of the surrounding space. He was looking for reinforcements that he knew would never come in time. The nearest human fleet was 6 days away at maximum speed, and the Crythians would breach the station's shields in less than 3 hours. His console beeped suddenly with a contact at the very edge of sensor range. Coleman frowned and ran the scan again because the reading made no sense at all. A single vessel was approaching from beyond Neptune's orbit at a speed that violated every known law of physics. The energy signature was massive, far larger than any dreadnought in the human fleet, but the configuration was completely unknown. Coleman's training told him it had to be another Crythian ship, probably their flagship coming to watch the slaughter. He reported the contact to Commander Morrison anyway because regulations required it. Morrison accessed the sensor feed from his station and felt his breath catch in his throat. The approaching vessel's signature was definitely not Crythian. It was something else entirely, something that the database could not identify. He opened a general broadcast channel and spoke with as much authority as he could manage while his world was ending. Unidentified vessel, this is Europa Station. We are currently under attack by hostile forces. State your identity and intentions immediately. Static filled the channel for several long seconds, and Morrison prepared to repeat his hail. Then a voice came through, clear and strong and unmistakably human. The accent was American, the tone was confident, and the words made absolutely no sense. Europa Station. This is Captain Nicole Brennan of the USS Black Star. Hold your position. We are inbound to provide immediate combat support. The bridge of the defense platform fell completely silent. Morrison knew the name Black Star from his military history courses at the Academy. It had been an experimental warship, the most advanced and expensive vessel ever constructed by humanity. The ship had vanished 15 years ago on its maiden voyage with all 300 crew members aboard. The official report declared it destroyed in a catastrophic reactor failure. The project had been buried under so many classified layers that most people forgot it ever existed. Lieutenant Amy Rogers worked the communications console and pulled up every file she could access on the Black Star project. What she found made her hands shake. The ship had consumed more resources than the rest of the fleet combined. Experimental reactors, prototype weapons, revolutionary shield technology, and a faster-than-light drive system that was reverse-engineered from recovered alien wreckage. The Black Star was supposed to be humanity's ace in the hole, the weapon that would level the playing field against hostile alien species. Captain Brennan's voice came through again, and this time, There was steel underneath the calm professionalism. All human vessels, withdraw to the station's inner defensive perimeter immediately. You are going to want clear firing lanes for what comes next. On the Crithian command ship, Warlord Zethris observed the human forces with contempt. These primitives had managed to spread across their local star system, but they had no real military power. His fleet had conquered 17 different species, and none had lasted more than a few days against Crithian might. He noticed a single contact approaching his formation and smiled with his multiple rows of teeth. One ship against 300. The humans were even more foolish than he thought. Zethris ordered a full squadron of 50 heavy cruisers to intercept and destroy the approaching vessel. It would be a fitting demonstration of Crithian superiority before they reduced the station to molten slag. His tactical officer confirmed the order, and the squadron broke formation, accelerating toward their target with weapons already charging. The USS Black Star dropped out of faster-than-light travel at exactly the maximum effective range of Crithian plasma cannons. Commander Morrison got his first visual of the ship and could not believe what he was seeing. The vessel was absolutely enormous, easily 3 times the size of the largest human carrier ever built. Its hull was a color beyond black, seeming to absorb the light from nearby stars. Strange geometric patterns covered the surface, and lines of blue energy pulsed along conduits that made no sense to human engineering. Captain Lisa Hayes magnified the image on her view screen and counted the weapon ports opening along the Black Star's hull. She stopped counting at 200 because her tactical computer could not identify what type of weapons they were. Every system on her frigate was screaming warnings about energy readings that exceeded maximum possible output. Whatever the Black Star had become in its 15 years of absence, it was no longer a human ship by any conventional definition. The Crithian squadron opened fire first. 50 heavy cruisers unleashed their full arsenal in a coordinated barrage designed to overwhelm any defensive system. Plasma bolts, kinetic penetrators, and fusion missiles converged on the Black Star from multiple angles. It was enough firepower to vaporize a small moon. The alien weapons struck some kind of barrier 50 meters from the Black Star's hull and simply vanished, their energy dissipating harmlessly into space. Then the USS Black Star returned fire, and the battle began. The first volley from the USS Black Star erased the Crithian squadron from existence in less than 3 seconds. Captain Nicole Brennan sat in her command chair and watched the tactical display with eyes that had seen things no human should ever witness. 15 years in the void between dimensions had changed her and her crew in ways that went beyond physical. They had learned patience, they had learned ruthlessness, and they had learned exactly how to kill efficiently. Lieutenant Commander Greg Walsh occupied the tactical station, and his fingers moved across controls that looked nothing like standard human interface systems. The technology they had integrated into the Black Star during their long exile made conventional weapons look like children's toys. He called out target data in a calm voice that belied the destruction he was coordinating. First Squadron eliminated, Captain, recalculating firing solutions for primary formation targets. The Crithian vessels had not exploded in the traditional sense. Whatever weapons the Black Star employed seemed to twist reality itself around the targeted ships. Their hulls folded inward like paper being crumpled by invisible hands, the metal screaming as it compressed into impossible geometric shapes before vanishing in bursts of exotic radiation. The entire squadron ceased to exist without leaving any debris behind. Warlord Zethris stared at his tactical display and felt something he had not experienced in his 30 years of military service. Fear crept up his spine as he watched 50 of his finest cruisers simply disappear from sensors. He barked orders at his communications officer to demand a full status report from the squadron commander. The reply came back as static and dead channels. Every ship, every crew member, every weapon system was gone. Captain Brennan stood from her chair and walked to the forward viewport. She could see the Crithian fleet beginning to react to the threat. their formation shifting as they tried to assess what they were facing. She had waited 15 years for this moment, 15 years fighting to bring her ship and crew home through dimensions that defied human understanding. They had encountered things in that darkness, ancient civilizations and hostile entities that made the Crithians look primitive. Major Kyle Bennett commanded the weapon systems from his station and watched the power readings climb as the ship's reactors fed energy to the main batteries. The Black Star drew power from sources that would make human physicists weep with joy or terror depending on their disposition. An artificial singularity sat in the core of the ship, contained by fields that existed partially outside normal space-time. It provided effectively unlimited energy for weapons that could tear holes in reality. Brennan gave her next order without hesitation or mercy. All weapons free. Show these aliens what happens when they threaten human colonies. I want every ship in that fleet reduced to atoms. The Black Star accelerated directly into the Crithian formation at speeds that made the inertial dampeners scream in protest. Lieutenant Sophie Martin handled navigation with the ease of someone who had plotted courses through dimensions where the normal laws of physics were merely suggestions. The ship responded to her commands like a living thing, dancing between incoming fire with grace that should have been impossible for something so massive. Zethris watched the human warship charge his fleet and made a decision born of desperation. He ordered 200 vessels to concentrate all firepower on the approaching target. The combined weapons output of 200 Crithian warships would have been enough to crack a planet's crust. Plasma cannons, particle beams, fusion missiles, and kinetic slugs all converged on the Black Star in a display of destructive power that lit up the entire region of space. The Black Star's shields held. More than held, they seemed to drink in the energy being thrown at them and grow stronger with each impact. The barrier around the ship glowed with colors that hurt to look at directly. Colors that existed outside the normal human visual spectrum. Every joule of energy the Crithians poured into their attack was absorbed, processed, and fed back into the Black Star's power grid. Major Bennett unleashed the full arsenal with practiced precision. Point defense systems came online and began tracking thousands of incoming projectiles simultaneously. Each turret operated independently with targeting computers that predicted trajectories several seconds into the future. Missiles and kinetic rounds were intercepted and destroyed before they could even reach the shields. The defensive fire was so accurate and so overwhelming that it created a sphere of destruction around the ship. The main weapons batteries opened up next. Torpedo launchers fired projectiles that did not follow normal ballistic paths. The warheads phased in and out of normal space, passing through Crithian shields as if they did not exist at all. They materialized inside enemy hulls and detonated with fusion reactions that turned the ships inside out. Dozens of Crithian vessels exploded from within, their shields useless against weapons that ignored conventional physics. Commander Jake Morrison watched from Europa Station as the battle unfolded. He had commanded defensive platforms for 12 years and thought he understood space combat. Everything he was witnessing threw that understanding into the trash. The Black Star moved through the Crithian formation like a shark through a school of fish, each movement perfectly calculated for maximum lethality. It was beautiful and terrifying in equal measure. Captain Lisa Hayes had her sensor officer record everything because she knew nobody would believe this without proof. The Black Star was outmassed 300-1, but it fought as if the odds were reversed. Crithian dreadnoughts that could have wiped out entire human fleets were being swatted aside like insects. Their advanced technology, their superior numbers, their tactical experience, none of it mattered against whatever the Black Star had become. Lieutenant Commander Walsh brought the main cannon online. The weapon drew power directly from the artificial singularity and channeled it through focusing arrays made from materials that should not exist in normal spacetime. He designated 3 Crithian command ships as priority targets and let the targeting computer calculate the firing solution. The weapon charged for exactly 4 seconds before unleashing a beam of concentrated gravitational energy. The beam itself was invisible, but its effects were impossible to miss. Space warped around the targeted vessels as gravitational forces millions of times stronger than a black hole gripped their hulls. The Crithian ships stretched like taffy, their molecular bonds breaking down under the impossible strain. They were pulled apart atom by atom, leaving behind nothing but expanding clouds of superheated plasma. 3 command ships carrying thousands of crew members simply ceased to exist. Zethris realized his entire invasion force was doomed. The finest fleet the Crithian Empire could assemble was being systematically destroyed by a single human warship. He activated his emergency beacon and began transmitting everything back to the homeworld. They needed to know what humanity had created, what nightmare weapon waited in the darkness for anyone foolish enough to threaten them. The transmission lasted for 47 seconds before the Black Star's sensors detected it. Major Bennett locked weapons on the command ship and fired a spread of phasing torpedoes. Zethris had time to see the warheads materialize on his bridge before the fusion reaction vaporized him and everyone aboard. Captain Brennan walked back to her command chair and sat down. Her voice was cold and empty of anything resembling mercy. Tactical. Begin pursuit of fleeing vessels. I want every ship that participated in this attack eliminated. No exceptions, no survivors, no mercy. The Black Star turned toward the retreating Crithian forces and accelerated. The Crithian fleet broke apart like a shattered mirror as captains abandoned formation and fled in every direction. Some tried to jump to faster-than-light speed immediately, while others dove toward Europa's gravity, well hoping the massive moon would provide cover. None of it mattered, because the USS Black Star hunted them with the cold efficiency of a machine designed for exactly this purpose. Lieutenant Sophie Martin tracked 17 vessels attempting to escape toward the outer system. Her navigation console displayed pursuit vectors that updated in real time as the Black Star's sensors predicted each ship's trajectory. She fed the data to Major Bennett's weapons station and watched the targeting solutions resolve almost instantly. The ship's computer systems operated on principles that made quantum processors look slow and primitive. Captain Nicole Brennan stood at the center of her bridge and felt nothing resembling satisfaction or joy. 15 years ago, she had been a naval officer excited about commanding humanity's most advanced warship. That person was dead now, burned away by experiences that would have broken weaker minds. The thing that wore her skin had learned hard lessons about survival and the cost of mercy. The Crithians had come to Europa Station to exterminate civilians, and she would make sure their lesson echoed across the galaxy. 3 Crithian dreadnoughts managed to achieve faster-than-light speed and vanished from normal space. Lieutenant Commander Greg Walsh smiled without humor and activated the Black Star's own drive system. The ship did not accelerate in any conventional sense. Space itself warped around the hull, creating a bubble of altered physics that allowed the vessel to move at speeds that would make Einstein weep. They caught up to the fleeing dreadnoughts in less than 90 seconds. Major Bennett fired the main cannon. The gravitational beam lanced across the impossible distance between dimensions and caught all 3 ships simultaneously. The Crithian vessels were ripped out of faster-than-light travel and pulled apart at the molecular level. Their warp fields collapsed catastrophically, creating brief tears in space-time that glowed with radiation across every spectrum. The explosions were visible from Europa Station, despite happening millions of kilometers away. Back at the defense platform, Commander Jake Morrison tried to process what he was witnessing. The tactical display showed Crithian contacts winking out one after another as the Black Star methodically erased them from existence. The alien fleet that had seemed so unstoppable an hour ago was being hunted to extinction. He pulled up the casualty estimates and felt sick. The Black Star had already destroyed over 200 vessels, which meant at least 50,000 aliens were dead. Captain Lisa Hayes watched a group of 5 Crithian cruisers attempt to surrender. They powered down their weapons, dropped their shields, and broadcast distress signals on all frequencies. She held her breath, wondering if the Black Star would accept. The human warship's response came in the form of phasing torpedoes that materialized inside each cruiser's reactor core. The ships exploded simultaneously, their fusion plants going critical and vaporizing everything within 1,000 meters. Lieutenant Danny Coleman monitored the communications channels and heard the Crithian transmissions growing more desperate. They were calling for help, begging their home fleet to send reinforcements, screaming about the demon ship that was killing them. Some channels devolved into prayers to alien gods that clearly had no power here. Coleman had fought in 3 campaigns against hostile species, but he had never heard enemies sound so terrified. The Black Star pursued a group of 40 ships trying to reach the asteroid belt. Lieutenant Martin plotted an intercept course that took them through Europa's upper atmosphere, using the moon's gravity to slingshot around and cut off the escape route. The maneuver would have torn apart any normal vessel, but the Black Star's inertial dampeners absorbed forces that would have turned the crew into paste against the bulkheads. Major Bennett activated the point defense grid and let the automated systems engage. Thousands of targeting lasers locked onto the fleeing Crithian ships and opened fire. The beams were not particularly powerful individually, but there were so many of them that they created a wall of destruction. Alien hulls began to glow red, then white, as the sustained fire melted through armor plating. Ships lost propulsion, life support, and structural integrity in rapid succession before breaking apart. Captain Brennan walked to the tactical station and reviewed the kill count. 263 Crithian vessels destroyed, 37 remaining. The survivors were scattered across the entire Europa system, trying desperately to find somewhere to hide. Her sensors could track them across light years, and her weapons had effectively unlimited range. There was no escape, no refuge, no hope for mercy. She opened a channel to her weapons officer. "Bennett, I want the remaining ships categorized by type. Start with their troop carriers and supply vessels. Kill anything that supported this invasion before we eliminate their combat ships." Lieutenant Commander Walsh identified 12 supply ships hiding in the rings of a nearby gas giant. They were non-combat vessels loaded with ammunition, fuel, and spare parts for the invasion force. The crews aboard probably thought they were safe tucked among the ice and rock of the planetary rings. The Black Star's main cannon fired once, and the gravitational beam carved through the rings like they were not even there. All 12 ships crumpled into balls of compressed metal before the exotic energies tore them into component atoms. 6 troop carriers tried to land on one of Europa's neighboring moons, hoping the surface installations would protect them. Major Bennett deployed a new weapon system that the crew had acquired during their exile. Missiles that existed partially outside normal time phased through solid rock and detonated inside the carriers. The fusion warheads vaporized the ships and left craters visible from orbit. 15,000 Crithian soldiers died without ever seeing what killed them. Commander Morrison received reports from his sensor teams about the engagement near the neighboring moon. The energy readings were consistent with multiple fusion detonations, but the missiles had somehow passed through several kilometers of solid rock without leaving a trace. He added it to the growing list of impossible things the Black Star could do and wondered what other horrors the ship was hiding. The Black Star cornered 18 combat vessels near one of Jupiter's moons. The Crithian ships formed a defensive formation and prepared to fight to the death. Their captains knew they could not win, but military pride demanded they go down fighting. Major Bennett respected that decision, even as he targeted each vessel with phasing torpedoes. The warheads materialized simultaneously, and the resulting explosions created a brief second sun in Jupiter's shadow. Captain Brennan reviewed the tactical display and saw only 7 contacts remaining. All were racing toward the edge of the solar system at maximum speed, their crews probably praying they could reach the safety of deep space. She gave Lieutenant Martin permission to pursue and felt the ship accelerate to velocities that bent the definition of speed. They caught the first fleeing vessel in less than 5 minutes. The Crithian captain tried every evasion maneuver in the book. He dove toward stellar bodies. He performed random course changes. He even jettisoned his reactor core, hoping the resulting explosion would mask his escape. Nothing worked, because the Black Star's sensors could track individual atoms across astronomical distances. Major Bennett fired a single torpedo, and the Crithian ship vanished in a flash of exotic radiation. 6 vessels left. The Black Star hunted them down one by one with mechanical precision. Each kill was clean, efficient, and utterly without mercy. Brennan watched her crew work and felt a cold satisfaction settle in her chest. These aliens had come to her species' territory expecting easy prey. They found out that humanity did not forgive threats to their colonies. The last Crithian ship broadcast a final message before the Black Star's weapons ended its existence. The transmission was simple and terrified. Tell the Empire that humanity has become something we cannot defeat. Tell them to stay away from human space. Tell them the Black Star is real, and it is hunting us all. Then there was silence. 300 Crithian warships reduced to expanding clouds of debris and radiation. Not one vessel survived. Not one alien lived to tell the story in person. The USS Black Star hung in the void above Europa Station, its black hull unmarked despite the sustained combat, and broadcast a simple message that every species in the sector would receive. Humanity remembers, and humanity does not forgive. The USS Black Star approached Europa Station slowly, its massive hull blocking out the stars as it moved into a high orbit above the colony. Captain Nicole Brennan stood at her viewport and looked down at the installation that housed 20,000 human souls. They were alive because she and her crew had arrived in time. The thought should have brought her comfort, but 15 years in the void had burned away her capacity for simple emotions. Admiral Peter Grant materialized on the Black Star's bridge as a full holographic projection transmitted via quantum entanglement from Earth. He looked around at the bridge that defied every principle of human engineering and then focused on the woman who commanded it. Brennan looked older than her years, her eyes carrying the weight of experiences that no after-action report could adequately describe. She stood at attention and saluted properly, despite everything. Grant returned the salute and then spoke in a voice that carried confusion, relief, and deep suspicion. Captain Brennan, according to our records, you and the USS Black Star were declared lost with all hands 15 years ago. I think you owe the human military and government a comprehensive explanation of where you have been and what happened to this vessel. Brennan gestured to the conference room adjacent to the bridge. Her senior staff assembled quickly, their movements efficient and professional despite the strangeness of their situation. Lieutenant Commander Greg Walsh, Major Kyle Bennett, and Lieutenant Sophie Martin took their positions around the table. Each of them looked as hardened as their captain, veterans of a war nobody else knew had been fought. The captain began her report with clinical precision. The Black Star's experimental faster-than-light drive malfunctioned during our shakedown cruise. The failure did not destroy the ship as the official reports claimed. Instead, we were displaced into subspace, a dimensional layer beneath normal reality where the physical laws operate on completely different principles. Admiral Grant accessed his personal database and pulled up files on subspace theory. Human physicists had speculated about such dimensions for decades, but nobody had ever found concrete proof they existed. The mathematics suggested that anything trapped in subspace would be crushed by exotic energies or torn apart by dimensional instabilities. "How did you survive?" he asked. Lieutenant Commander Walsh answered that question. "Barely, sir. The initial displacement killed 47 crew members instantly when parts of the ship phased through incompatible dimensional boundaries. We spent the first year just figuring out how to keep the hull intact while we searched for a way home. Subspace is not empty. It contains civilizations, entities, and phenomena that make our understanding of physics look primitive. Major Bennett brought up holographic displays showing creatures and structures that looked like they belonged in fever dreams rather than reality. Things with too many angles, geometries that hurt to look at, and energy patterns that existed in colors human eyes were not designed to perceive. We encountered the architects first. They are a species millions of years old who retreated into subspace when their home dimension became uninhabitable. They helped us stabilize the ship in exchange for information about normal space. Captain Brennan continued the story. The architects taught us how to navigate subspace and showed us technology that makes our weapons look like stone tools. We spent 5 years with them, learning and upgrading the Black Star with systems that blend human engineering with their dimensional physics. The shields, the weapons, the faster-than-light drive, everything was rebuilt from the ground up. Lieutenant Martin pulled up star charts showing routes through subspace that connected distant points in normal space. We could have come home after those 5 years, but we detected something that terrified even the architects. They called it the consuming dark, an intelligence so vast and hostile that entire civilizations had been erased by it. The architects warned us it was moving toward our dimension and we needed to prepare. Admiral Grant felt his blood run cold. Are you telling me there is something worse than the Crithians coming? Brennan nodded once. Much worse, sir. We spent the next 10 years gathering intelligence and technology from other subspace civilizations. Some helped us. Others tried to capture or destroy us. We fought running battles across dimensions that do not appear on any human map. Our crew members died one by one, until we lost another 112 people. The survivors became something more than human in the process. She gestured to her remaining crew. We can perceive things normal humans cannot. We can interface with technology that would drive regular people insane. We exist partially outside normal space-time, which gives us reaction speeds and processing capabilities beyond baseline human limits. The Black Star and her crew merged with technologies that changed us at a fundamental level. Major Bennett brought up the tactical recording of the battle against the Crithian fleet. We finally found a way home 3 months ago when the Consuming Dark's advance forces pushed us out of subspace. We emerged near Pluto and immediately detected the Crithian invasion force. We could have contacted Earth first, but those aliens were about to commit genocide, and we had the power to stop them. Admiral Grant watched the footage of 300 alien warships being systematically annihilated. The weapons the Black Star employed violated conservation of energy, causality, and several other fundamental laws. The ship moved in ways that should have liquefied the crew from inertial forces. Everything about it was impossible, yet undeniably real. What you did to that fleet, can other nations replicate it? Captain Brennan met his eyes with an intensity that made the Admiral want to step back despite being a hologram. We brought back complete technical specifications for everything we integrated into the Black Star. The knowledge to build a fleet of ships like this one exists in our computers. We can share it with Earth's governments and military, but there is a cost, Lieutenant Commander Walsh explained. The technology requires crew members who have been enhanced beyond baseline human capabilities. Regular people cannot interface with these systems without suffering neural damage or death. We can train others, but the process takes years, and not everyone survives it. The Black Star is powerful, but creating more ships like her will require humanity to change in fundamental ways. Admiral Grant considered the implications. An entire fleet of vessels like the Black Star would make humanity the dominant military power in the known galaxy. The cost would be creating soldiers who were no longer entirely human. What about the Consuming Dark? When will it arrive, and what can we do to stop it? Captain Brennan brought up projections based on data gathered during her 15-year exile. Best estimate is we have between 5 and 10 years before it breaches into normal space. As for stopping it, the architects and every other ancient civilization we encountered failed to do so. They could only flee and hide. The consuming dark erases everything it touches from existence across all dimensions simultaneously. The bridge fell silent as everyone processed that information. Humanity had just learned they were facing an enemy that had defeated civilizations millions of years more advanced. The Crithians and other hostile species were nothing compared to what was coming. The galaxy itself might not survive. Admiral Grant straightened his shoulders and made a decision that would reshape humanity's future. Captain Brennan, you and your crew are hereby reinstated to active duty with full honors. The Black Star will serve as the flagship for a new fleet that we will build using the technology you brought back. I am authorizing you to begin recruiting and training personnel for crew positions on the next generation of warships. Brennan saluted. Understood, sir. We will prepare humanity for the war that is coming. The Crithians learned today that we are not easy prey. The consuming dark will learn that humanity does not surrender our existence without a fight. The hologram faded as Admiral Grant terminated the connection. Captain Brennan looked at her crew and saw the same grim determination reflected in their faces. They had survived 15 years in hell and brought back the tools humanity needed. Now came the hard part, transforming their species into something capable of fighting gods and monsters. Europa Station hummed with activity as repair crews worked to fix the damage from near impacts during the Crithian assault. Commander Jake Morrison walked through the main concourse and watched colonists embrace their families with tears of relief streaming down their faces. 20,000 people had come within hours of extinction, and the reality of that narrow escape was settling into everyone's bones. Children asked their parents about the black ship that saved them and received answers that sounded like fairy tales. Captain Lisa Hayes docked the USS Defender at the station's military berth and immediately requested permission to tour the Black Star. Her crew had fought bravely against impossible odds, but they all knew the frigate had been useless in the actual battle. She needed to see the ship that had accomplished what an entire fleet could not. The request was approved, and Hayes found herself standing in a shuttle approaching the massive warship. The Black Star hung in high orbit like a piece of night sky cut loose from the universe. Up close, it was even more impressive and disturbing. The hull seemed to drink in light from nearby stars, creating an aura of darkness that extended beyond its physical boundaries. Strange symbols glowed along the surface in colors that made Hayes's eyes water. She had commanded warships for 20 years, and this thing looked more like an artifact from an ancient alien temple than human engineering. Lieutenant Amy Rogers compiled the tactical data from the battle and prepared a report for military intelligence. The numbers were staggering in their implications. 300 Crithian warships destroyed in less than 2 hours with 0 human casualties. The Black Star had taken concentrated fire from 200 vessels simultaneously, and its shields had not even flickered. Every weapon system it deployed operated on principles that made human physics look incomplete. The footage of the battle was already spreading across every human colony and military installation in settled space. Rogers watched it again and focused on the moment when the Black Star's main cannon fired. Space itself warped around the beam, creating visible distortions that persisted for several seconds after the weapon discharged. The targeted Crithian ships did not explode. They simply ceased to exist as if reality had decided they were no longer permitted. On Earth, political leaders gathered in emergency sessions to discuss the implications of the Black Star's return. Humanity had been playing defense against hostile alien species for decades, always outnumbered and outgunned. Now they possessed technology that could change the balance of power across the entire galaxy. The debates raged about how to use this advantage and what moral lines should not be crossed. Admiral Peter Grant stood before the Joint Chiefs and presented Captain Brennan's technical data. The holographic displays showed schematics for weapons that bent space-time, shields that existed partially outside normal dimensions, and faster-than-light drives that could cross the galaxy in days. Building ships like the Black Star would require resources on a scale humanity had never attempted. Entire planets would need to be converted into shipyards and manufacturing centers. The real challenge was the crew requirements. Captain Brennan had been clear that operating Black Star-level technology required enhanced personnel who existed partially outside baseline human parameters. The enhancement process involved integrating alien technology into human nervous systems and exposing candidates to exotic energies that rewrote their biology. Mortality rates during training were estimated at 30%, and successful candidates could never return to normal human society. Captain Nicole Brennan gave her first address to the colonists of Europa Station from the observation deck. She looked out at the crowd of grateful civilians and military personnel who wanted to thank her for saving their lives. She accepted their gratitude with a nod, but her mind was already focused on the future. The Crithians were a minor threat compared to what was coming, and humanity needed to be ready. She spoke in a clear voice that carried across the packed chamber. The enemy you faced today was dangerous, but they were nothing compared to threats that exist in the darkness between stars. My crew and I spent 15 years fighting to survive in places where human life should be impossible. We saw civilizations that make the Crithians look primitive, and we witnessed the destruction of species who thought they were safe. The crowd fell silent as Brennan continued. The technology we brought back can make humanity strong enough to defend ourselves, but it comes with a price. We will need to change, to evolve beyond what we currently are. Some of you will volunteer to become crew members on the next generation of warships. You will undergo training that pushes human limits and integrates alien technology into your bodies and minds. Many will not survive the process. Lieutenant Commander Greg Walsh stood beside his captain and watched the crowd's reaction. Fear mixed with determination on many faces. The colonists had just witnessed what enhanced humans and advanced technology could accomplish. They understood that conventional forces were obsolete against the threats humanity faced. Some would step forward to volunteer because they saw no other choice. Major Kyle Bennett reviewed the list of candidates who had already applied for the enhancement program. Hundreds of military personnel from across human space wanted to serve aboard the new warships. They knew the risks and accepted them because the alternative was watching their species get crushed by hostile aliens. Bennett recognized that desperation in their applications because he had felt it himself 15 years ago when the Black Star first launched. Lieutenant Sophie Martin plotted courses for the Black Star's upcoming missions. Admiral Grant wanted the ship to visit every major human colony and military base to demonstrate its capabilities. The message needed to be clear to both human populations and potential enemies. Humanity was no longer weak prey hiding in the corners of the galaxy. They had teeth and claws now, along with the will to use them. Commander Morrison received reports that hostile species across the sector had detected the battle transmissions. The Crithian Empire was in chaos after losing their entire invasion fleet. Other aggressive species were reconsidering their expansion plans toward human territory. Some were attempting to open diplomatic channels for the first time in decades. Fear was a powerful motivator, and the Black Star had given the galaxy a reason to fear humanity. Captain Hayes finally got her tour of the Black Star and walked through corridors that made her question everything she knew about ship design. The interior spaces shifted slightly when she was not looking directly at them. Equipment hummed with energies her sensors could not properly measure. Crew members moved with inhuman grace, and their eyes reflected light in ways that suggested they could perceive spectrums invisible to baseline humans. She met with Captain Brennan in the command center and asked the question that had been bothering her since the battle ended. What did you become out there? You and your crew, You are not entirely human anymore, are you? Brennan considered the question carefully before answering. We are human enough to remember what we are fighting for. We changed because the alternative was death, and we refused to let our species face the darkness alone. The things we integrated into ourselves, the modifications we made, they were necessary to survive and bring back the tools humanity needs. Hayes looked into Brennan's eyes and saw something vast and cold looking back. Was it worth the cost? The captain of the Black Star nodded slowly. Ask me again in 10 years when the consuming dark arrives. If humanity still exists and thrives, then yes, every sacrifice was worth it. If we fall despite our preparations, then at least we fought with everything we had. The two captains stood in silence for a moment, one representing what humanity was and the other representing what humanity was becoming. Hayes saluted and returned to her frigate, her mind full of questions about the future. The Black Star remained in orbit above Europa Station, a dark guardian watching over the colony it had saved. 3 months later, the first new warship launched from Earth's orbital yards. The USS Nightfall was smaller than the Black Star, but incorporated the same dimensional technology and exotic weapons. Its crew of 200 enhanced humans had survived the training process and stood ready to defend humanity. 5 more ships were under construction with dozens more planned. The galaxy watched as humanity began building a fleet that defied conventional military doctrine. Species that had dismissed humans as weak primitives suddenly found themselves facing an enemy that could match or exceed their own technological capabilities. Diplomatic relations shifted as former aggressors became cautious and neutral parties sought alliances. Captain Nicole Brennan stood on the bridge of the Black Star and looked at the holographic display showing human-controlled space. The territory was small compared to ancient empires, but it was growing. New colonies were being established, trade routes were expanding, and the military was becoming powerful enough to guarantee security. She had brought her crew home and given humanity the tools to survive. The consuming dark was still coming, moving through dimensions toward normal space like a cancer spreading through reality. The architects estimated 5 years remained before it breached into the galaxy. 5 years to build a fleet, train enhanced crews, and prepare for a war that would determine if life itself had a future. Brennan touched the tactical display and smiled without warmth. Let the darkness come. Humanity would be waiting with ships that could tear holes in reality and weapons that defied the laws of physics. The Crithians had learned that attacking human colonies was fatal. The consuming dark would learn that humanity did not surrender existence without burning the universe down first. The USS Black Star turned away from Europa Station and accelerated toward the outer system. There were more colonies to protect, more enemies to discourage, and more preparations to complete. The age of human dominance had begun above a frozen moon, and it would spread across the stars until every hostile force understood one simple truth. Humanity remembers, humanity evolves, and humanity never stops fighting.
The space station hung in the darkness like a giant metal flower. Nexus Prime was the biggest neutral meeting place in the galaxy. Ships from 100 different worlds docked at its arms every day. Today was different, though. Today, the most important person from Earth was coming to make peace. President Catherine Bell looked out the window of her ship as they approached the station. She was 52 years old with gray hair and kind eyes. For 10 years, she had led Earth as its first planetary president. The people loved her because she always tried to do what was right. "Are you nervous, Madam President?" asked Commander Jake Morrison. He was her head of security, a tall man with short brown hair and serious blue eyes. He had been a soldier for 20 years and had never lost anyone under his protection. "A little," Catherine said with a small smile. "But this is too important to let fear stop us. If we can make peace with the Galactic Council, our children will grow up in a better universe." Jake nodded but kept his hand near his weapon. Something felt wrong about this meeting. The Council had been friendly to humans for years, but lately things had changed. Earth's colonies were growing fast. Human technology was getting better, every month. Maybe the aliens were getting scared. Their ship docked with a soft bump. Catherine straightened her blue suit and picked up her briefcase. Inside were the peace treaties that would make Earth an official member of the Galactic Council. She had worked on these papers for 2 years. The airlock opened with a hiss. Ambassador Zeth Ka of the Zephyrian Empire waited for them. He was 8 feet tall with purple skin and 4 arms. His species had ruled this part of the galaxy for 1,000 years. President Bell, Zeth Ka said in perfect English. His voice sounded like music, but his yellow eyes were cold. Welcome to Nexus Prime. The Council is eager to meet with you. Thank you, Ambassador, Catherine replied. I hope today marks the beginning of a new friendship between our peoples. They walked through the station's corridors. Jake stayed close to the president, watching everything. Other aliens stopped to stare at the humans. Some looked curious. Others looked angry. A few looked afraid. The meeting room was huge with a round table in the center. Representatives from 12 different alien species sat around it. Catherine recognized most of them from her studies. The crystalline collective sparkled like living diamonds. The gas beings floated in special suits. The machine lords clicked and whirred with each movement. Please take your seat, said Chancellor Vexmore, the leader of the council. He was from the same species as Zeth Ka, but even bigger. We have much to discuss. Catherine sat down and opened her briefcase. I have brought the treaties we discussed. Earth is ready to join the galactic community as a peaceful partner. The aliens looked at each other. Something passed between them that Catherine could not understand. Chancellor Vexmore leaned forward. President Bell, we have been watching your species for some time. Humans are interesting. You learn fast. You build quickly. You spread to new worlds like a virus. We explore because we are curious, Catherine said. We build because we want to make life better for everyone. Do you? Asked another alien, one with tentacles instead of arms. Your warships are faster than ours. Your weapons are more powerful. Your colonies produce more resources than planets that have been settled for centuries. Jake felt his muscles tense. This was not going the way they had planned. Catherine kept her voice calm. We share our technology with everyone. We have never attacked another species. We want to be friends, not enemies. That is the problem, Chancellor Vexmore said. You are too good at everything. In 50 years, humans will be stronger than all of us combined. We cannot allow that to happen. The room grew quiet. Catherine felt her heart beating faster. What are you saying? We are saying that humanity must be stopped before it is too late. The Chancellor stood up. But do not worry. We do not plan to destroy your species. We only need to remove your leader. Without you, the humans will fight among themselves. They will be weak and easy to control. Jake was already moving, but it was too late. The lights went out. In the darkness, energy weapons fired. Jake heard Catherine scream his name. He tried to reach her, but something hit him in the chest and sent him flying across the room. When the lights came back on, Catherine was on the floor. Blood pooled around her head. Jake crawled to her, ignoring the pain in his ribs. Catherine. He lifted her head gently. Her eyes were still open, but they were getting dim. Jake, she whispered. Tell them. Tell our people. This is not the end. Humans do not forgive. Humans do not forget. You are going to be okay, Jake said, but he knew it was a lie. The weapon had hit her in the chest. There was too much blood. Promise me, Catherine said. Her voice was so quiet he had to lean close to hear. Promise me they will pay for this. Promise, Jake said. Catherine Bell, president of Earth and hope for human-alien friendship, died in Jake's arms 30 seconds later. Chancellor Vexmore looked down at them without emotion. Broadcast this across the galaxy. Let every species see what happens to those who threaten the natural order. The humans will surrender within a week. Jake looked up at the alien leader. His eyes were filled with tears, but also with something else. Something that made the Chancellor take a step back. You have no idea what you have just done, Jake said quietly. You think you know humans, but you do not. You just killed the one person who could have kept us peaceful. Now you will see what we are really like when someone hurts our family." The aliens laughed, but their laughter sounded nervous. They had just made the biggest mistake in galactic history. They had turned humanity's greatest friend into their greatest enemy, and they had no idea what was coming for them. The news reached Earth in 4 hours. Every screen on the planet showed the same terrible image. President Catherine Bell lying dead on the floor of Nexus Prime, while alien leaders stood over her body. The Galactic Council had broadcast it to every world in the galaxy as a warning. They wanted everyone to see what happened to species that got too strong. Daniel Cross was in his office when the call came. He was the vice president, a quiet man who had worked with Catherine for 8 years. He was reading reports about new colony worlds when his secretary burst through the door. "Sir, you need to see this right now," she said. Her face was white with shock. Daniel looked at the screen and felt his world collapse. Catherine was not just his president. She was his friend. They had worked together to build a better future for humanity. Now she was gone, murdered by the very aliens she had trusted. Within minutes, Daniel was in the emergency command center deep under Washington, D.C. Military leaders filled the room. Admiral Ryan Cole stood at the main screen, his face hard as stone. He was 60 years old and had spent his whole life in space. He had always believed in peace, but the look in his eyes had changed. "How many of our people were killed?" Daniel asked. "Just the president," Admiral Cole replied. "Commander Morrison survived, but he is hurt. The aliens wanted him alive to tell us what happened." "What do we know about their military strength?" Dr. Lisa Park stepped forward. She was the head of Earth's weapons research, a small woman with sharp eyes and a brilliant mind. "We have been studying their technology for years. They are strong, but they have one big weakness. They have been at peace for so long that they have forgotten how to really fight." "And we have not," said General Pete Watson. He was the head of Earth's ground forces, a big man with scars on his hands from a dozen battles on colony worlds. "Every human child knows the history of war. We have been fighting each other for thousands of years. These aliens have no idea what real warfare looks like." Daniel sat down heavily in the president's chair. It felt wrong to be there. Catherine should be sitting here, making plans for peace. Instead, he was about to make plans for war. "Sir," Admiral Cole said quietly, "we need to make a decision. The aliens are waiting for us to surrender. They think killing our leader will make us weak." Daniel looked around the room at the faces of Earth's military leaders. These were people who had spent their careers protecting humanity. They had built defenses against asteroids and pirates. They had never planned for a war against the entire galaxy, but the look in their eyes was the same look he saw in his own mirror. It was not fear. It was anger. "Get me Commander Morrison," Daniel said. The screen flickered, and Jake Morrison appeared. He was in a medical bed on a rescue ship heading back to Earth. His chest was wrapped in bandages, but his eyes burned with rage. "Commander, I need you to tell me exactly what happened." Jake's voice was rough but clear. "They planned it from the beginning, sir. This was not a peace meeting, it was an execution. They wanted to kill President Bell and make us watch. They think we will break apart without her." "Will we?" Daniel asked. Jake was quiet for a moment. Then he spoke words that would echo across the galaxy. "Sir, I have traveled to 100 worlds. I have met aliens who can live for 1,000 years, and others who can move mountains with their minds. But I have never met anyone like humans. We do not break. We bend, and then we snap back twice as hard." Daniel stood up. Around the room, every officer was watching him. The weight of humanity's future rested on his next words. "Dr. Park, how long would it take to turn our exploration fleet into a war fleet? 6 months if we push hard. Our shipyards are already building colony ships. We can change the designs to build warships instead. General Watson, how many soldiers can we train? We have 50 million people in the reserves. Give me a year, and I can have them ready for anything. Admiral Cole, can our current ships fight theirs?" The old admiral smiled for the first time since the news came. "Sir, our ships were built to explore unknown space. That means they were built to handle anything. Their ships were built for parades and peaceful missions. In a real fight, I like our chances. Daniel walked to the big screen that showed Earth from space. Billions of people down there were crying for their president. Soon they would be crying for revenge. Send a message to every human colony. Tell them what happened here. Tell them that Earth calls for their help. Sir, Admiral Cole said. What? About the aliens? They are waiting for our surrender. Daniel turned back to face the room. His voice was calm but filled with iron. Send them this message. Tell them that humanity does not surrender. Tell them that they killed the one person who could have saved them from us. Tell them that Catherine Bell wanted peace, but she is gone now. They will deal with us instead. What should we call this operation? Dr. Park asked. Daniel thought about Catherine's last words, the ones Commander Morrison had told him. She had said that humans do not forgive and do not forget. Call it Operation Memory, he said, because we are going to make sure the galaxy never forgets what happens when you murder our family. Across Earth, the news spread like wildfire. President Bell was dead, killed by aliens who thought humans were too dangerous to live free. In every city, people gathered in the streets. Some were crying, some were praying, most were angry. The aliens had made their choice. Now humanity would make theirs. In space stations around distant stars, human colonists watched the same broadcast. They saw their beloved president die and heard their new president's response. Ship captains changed course toward home. Scientists put down their research and picked up weapons designs. Teachers became soldiers. The galaxy had wanted to see what humans would do when they were cornered and alone. They were about to find out. 6 months after Catherine Bell's murder, Earth looked like a different planet. Every factory that once made cars now made weapons. Every shipyard that built exploration vessels now built warships. The blue marble that aliens had seen as peaceful was now the beating heart of a war machine. Dr. Lisa Park had not slept properly in weeks. Her laboratory worked around the clock, turning human curiosity into human vengeance. The same minds that had created faster engines and better medicines now created things that would give alien commanders nightmares. Show me the new plasma cannons, she told her assistant, Dr. Ben Carter. He was young but brilliant. One of many scientists who had volunteered for the weapons program after seeing their president die. They fire 3 times faster than anything the aliens have, Ben explained. But that is not the best part. We took their own shield technology and reversed it. Instead of stopping energy, our weapons go right through their defenses, Lisa nodded. And the bioscanners? Ready for field testing. We can identify any alien species from 1 million miles away. No more surprise attacks like they used on President Bell. Across the solar system, Admiral Ryan Cole watched his new fleet take shape. The ships looked different from the peaceful vessels Earth used to build. These were built for war, with thick armor and massive weapons. But they were still human ships, which meant they were built to think and adapt. Captain Steve Murphy walked onto the bridge of his new ship, the Retribution. It was the first of the new Vengeance-class warships, designed specifically to fight aliens who thought they knew how space battles worked. Status report, Steve said to his crew. He was 35 years old and had spent 10 years commanding exploration ships. Now he commanded humanity's most advanced weapon. All systems ready, Captain, reported Lieutenant Amy Brooks. The new engines are working perfectly. We can move twice as fast as their fastest ships. And the weapons? Dr. Park's plasma cannons are online. The missile systems are loaded with the new smart warheads. Each one can think for itself and pick its own target. Steve smiled grimly. The aliens had made one big mistake. They thought humans fought like they did, with honor and rules and predictable tactics. They were about to learn that humans fought to win. On Earth, Agent Claire Foster sat in a room full of computers. She was part of Earth's intelligence service, a quiet woman who could hack into any computer system in the galaxy. While the military built ships and weapons, she built something else. Fear. Sir, we have broken into their communication network, she told Director Tom Hayes. Every message between their worlds now goes through our computers first. What are they saying? Claire pulled up a report on her screen. They are scared. 3, of their member species want to quit the Council. They know we are building a fleet, but they do not know how big or how strong it is. Good. Let them wonder. Fear is a weapon too. Tom looked at the intelligence reports coming in from across the galaxy. Human spies on alien worlds. Human hackers in alien computer systems. Human agents spreading stories about Earth's coming revenge. The aliens had started this war in secret. Now they would fight it in the light, where everyone could see. Meanwhile, Commander Jake Morrison was no longer lying in a medical bed. He was back on his feet and angrier than ever. President Bell had died in his arms, and he carried that weight every day. But now he had a chance to do something about it. Operation First Strike is ready, he told President Cross over a secure video link. We have identified the station where President Bell was killed. It is still being used by the Galactic Council. Are you sure about this, Commander? Once we attack, there is no going back. Jake's eyes were hard as steel. Sir, they went too far the moment they killed her. This is not about going back. This is about going forward until every one of them pays for what they did. Daniel Cross looked tired. Being president during peacetime was hard enough. Being president during the build-up to a galactic war was something no human had ever done before. But Catherine had chosen him as her successor for a reason. You have permission to proceed, Commander. Make them remember her name. 3 days later, Captain Murphy's fleet dropped out of hyperspace near Kepler Station. It was a trading post on the edge of Council space, lightly defended and full of civilian ships. The perfect target for humanity's first real message to the galaxy. Captain, Lieutenant Brooks said, we are being scanned by their defense platforms. Let them scan, Steve replied. I want them to see us coming. The alien commander of Kepler Station sent out the standard warning. Unknown ships, you are entering restricted space. Identify yourselves or be fired upon. Captain Murphy opened a communication channel that broadcast to every ship and station in the system. This is Captain Steve Murphy of the Earth Defense Fleet. We are here for one reason. 6 months ago, your Galactic Council murdered President Catherine Bell during a peace meeting. Today we begin collecting payment for that crime. The alien. Commander was confused. Earth ships. You are supposed to be surrendering. The Council said your species would collapse without your leader. The Council was wrong, Steve said simply. Retribution. Open fire. The battle lasted 6 hours. When it was over, Kepler Station was a cloud of debris floating in space. Every alien warship in the system was destroyed. The human fleet had not lost a single ship. But the most important part was not the battle itself. It was what Captain Murphy did next. Broadcast this message on all frequencies, he told his communications officer. This attack is dedicated to the memory of President Catherine Bell, leader of humanity and champion of peace. She wanted to be your friend. You chose to make her your victim. Now you will face her people. We are coming for all of you. News of the battle spread across the galaxy in hours. The mighty Galactic Council, rulers of 1,000 worlds, had been humiliated by a species they thought was weak and broken. On Earth, President Cross watched the reports with satisfaction. Dr. Park, how soon can we launch the main offensive? Our shipyards are working at full capacity. Give us 3 more months and we will have a fleet big enough to take on their entire military. General Watson, what about ground forces? 100 million volunteers and counting, sir. We have more people wanting to fight than we have weapons to give them. The aliens had wanted to remove humanity's leader to make them weak. Instead, they had turned every human into a soldier. They had wanted to stop humanity's expansion. Instead, they had given humanity a reason to expand into their territory. As the news of Kepler Station reached Earth, crowds gathered in the streets. They were not celebrating victory. They were promising more battles to come. On every world, where humans lived, the same scene played out. A species united in grief had become a species united in war. The galaxy was about to learn what humans really looked like when they stopped pretending to be civilized. 1 year after Catherine Bell's death, the galaxy was burning. Human fleets swept through space like hungry wolves, taking system after system from the Galactic Council. Every victory was announced with the same message. For President Bell, Captain Steve Murphy stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching another alien world surrender. This was the 15th planet his fleet had conquered in 2 months. The aliens who had once seemed so powerful now begged for mercy before the fighting even started. "Captain, we are receiving a surrender signal from the surface," reported Lieutenant Amy Brooks. "The Zephyrian governor wants to negotiate terms." Steve looked at the purple planet below. 1,000,000 Zephyrians lived there, the same species that had killed his president. He felt no pity for them. "Tell them the terms are simple," he said. "Complete. Surrender. All military forces will be disbanded. All weapons will be handed over to human forces. Anyone who fought against us will be tried for war crimes. Sir, they are asking about civilian protection. They will be treated better than they treated President Bell." Steve's voice was cold as space. "But they will never again be free to threaten humanity." On the other side of the galaxy, General Pete Watson led his ground forces across the surface of Krek 7, the Crystalline Collective's main military base. The crystal beings had thought their underground cities would protect them. They were wrong. "General, the last defense bunker has fallen," reported Colonel Mary Johnson. She was covered in dust from the battle, but her eyes were bright with victory. "The enemy commander wants to speak with you." Pete walked into the crystal cave where the alien leader waited. The being looked like a living diamond, beautiful and cold. It had probably lived for 1,000 years and seen the rise and fall of many species, but it had never seen anything like humanity. "General Watson," the crystal being said in a voice like breaking glass, "your species fights like demons. We did not expect such savagery." "You killed our president," Pete replied, simply. "What did you expect, flowers and songs? We thought you would be reasonable. Most species negotiate after losing their leader. They find new ways to cooperate." Pete laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You do not understand humans at all. When you hurt one of us, you hurt all of us. When you kill our leader, you declare war on our entire species." The crystal being trembled. "What do you want from us?" "Justice. President Bell believed in peace. You murdered her for that belief. Now you will live under the peace we build, not the one you destroyed." Meanwhile, Agent Claire Foster was winning, a different kind of war. From her command center on Earth, she had turned the aliens' own technology against them. Every communication was intercepted. Every military plan was stolen. Every secret was revealed. "Director Hayes," she called to her boss. "I have something interesting. The Galactic Council is falling apart." Tom Hayes looked at her screen. "Show me." 3 more species have tried to leave the Council this week. The Machine Lords want to negotiate a separate peace with humanity. The gas beings are moving their entire civilization to another galaxy. Even the Zephyrians are starting to blame each other for starting this war. Good. Fear makes them stupid. Stupid enemies make mistakes. Claire pulled up another report. "We have also located the aliens who actually killed President Bell. Commander Morrison will be very interested in this." Jake Morrison was no longer the broken man who had crawled to his dying president's side. He had become something harder, something that alien species would whisper about for generations. He led the Special Forces unit that hunted down war criminals, and he was very good at his job. "Commander, we have found them," Agent Foster told him over a secure channel. "The 3 Zephyrian assassins who killed President Bell are hiding on Nexus Prime, the same station where they murdered her." Jake felt a cold satisfaction. "How well defended is it?" "Not well enough. The station commander thinks the location is secret, but we have been watching them for months. Send me the details. It is time to close this circle." 2 days later, Jake's team stormed Nexus Prime. The aliens who had once felt safe in their neutral territory learned that humans did not respect the old rules. There was no safe place for the people who had killed Catherine Bell. The 3 assassins died exactly where their victim had died. Jake made sure of that. But the real war was being fought in space, where Admiral Cole commanded the largest fleet in human history. His ships moved like a steel storm through the galaxy, crushing everything the aliens sent against them. "Admiral," reported Captain Murphy from his flagship. "The Zephyrian Empire's main fleet is moving to intercept us at the Vega system." "How many ships?" Admiral Cole asked. 3,000. The largest alien fleet ever assembled. Admiral Cole smiled. "And how many ships do we have?" 800, sir. The aliens would have been happy with those numbers. 3,000 against 800 seemed like good odds. But they had forgotten that they were fighting humans, and humans did not fight fair. The Battle of Vega lasted 12 hours. When it was over, the Zephyrian Empire had no fleet left. Their 3,000 ships were destroyed or captured. The human fleet had lost only 37 vessels. After the battle, Admiral Cole sent a message to every alien world in the galaxy. "This is Admiral Ryan Cole of the Earth Defense Fleet. Today we have destroyed the military power of the species that killed our president. But we are not finished. We will not be finished until every world that supported her murder is under human control." The message was broadcast along with video from the battle. Alien leaders across the galaxy watched human ships tear through their most powerful fleet like it was made of paper. Many of them began to understand that this war was already over. They just had not admitted it yet. On Earth, President Cross watched the reports with grim satisfaction. The aliens had thought they could remove one leader and break humanity's spirit. Instead, they had created a force that would reshape the entire galaxy. "Dr. Park," he said to his weapons chief, "do we still need to use the planet killer weapon?" Lisa Park looked at the latest battle reports. "I do not think so, sir. At this rate, we will control most of their territory within 6 months. The weapon will not be necessary." "Good. Catherine would not have wanted us to destroy entire worlds unless we had no choice. What about after we win? What do we do with all these alien species?" Daniel Cross thought about that question. It was the most important decision humanity would ever make. They could destroy their enemies completely, or they could build something better. "We give them the peace Catherine Bell wanted," he said finally. "But it will be peace on our terms, enforced by our strength. They will never again be in a position to threaten any human life." Across the galaxy, alien civilizations that had ruled for thousands of years began to fall. The Galactic Council, which had thought itself the master of the universe, was becoming nothing more than a memory. All because they had underestimated what humans would do when someone killed their family. 2 years after Catherine Bell's assassination, the war was over. The Galactic Council no longer existed. Their capital world was now called New Washington, and Earth's flag flew over the ruins of their ancient government buildings. Every species that had voted to kill humanity's president now lived under human rule. President Daniel Cross stood in what had once been the Council's meeting chamber. This was the same room where Catherine had come to make peace. Now it was the center of a new galactic government with humans in charge. Admiral Ryan Cole walked up to him with a tablet full of reports. "Sir, the last Zephyrian military base has surrendered. Their emperor is requesting an audience." "Let him wait," Daniel said. "Dr. Park, what is the status of the weapon?" Dr. Lisa Park held a small device in her hands. It looked harmless, but it could destroy entire star systems. She had called it the Bell device, after their murdered president. One activation would wipe out any planet that dared to threaten humanity again. "It is ready, sir. We could test it on the Zephyrian homeworld. Send a message that no one will ever forget." Daniel looked at the device for a long moment. Catherine had believed in mercy. She had wanted peace through friendship, not fear. But she was dead because she had trusted aliens who saw kindness as weakness. "Sir," Admiral Cole said quietly, "the people of Earth are waiting for your decision. They want justice for President Bell." "And they will have it," Daniel replied, "but not the way the aliens might expect." He walked to the great window that looked out over the alien capital. City. Millions of creatures lived down there, all of them now under human protection. Some had supported the Council's decision to kill Catherine. Others had tried to stop it. Most had simply been afraid to speak up. General Pete Watson entered the room with Commander Jake Morrison. Both men looked older than they had 2 years ago. War had aged them all. "Sir," Pete said, Our ground forces control every major population center in the galaxy. The aliens are completely defenseless. If we wanted to eliminate them entirely, we could do it in a matter of weeks. Jake nodded. The assassins who killed President Bell are all dead. Their leaders are in prison. We have proven that no one can harm humanity without paying the price. Daniel turned back to his advisors. And what would Catherine think of that choice? The room grew quiet. They all knew the answer. Agent Claire Foster spoke from her position at the intelligence station. Sir, we are receiving messages from across the galaxy. Some alien species are begging for mercy. Others are promising eternal loyalty to humanity. A few are still trying to organize resistance, but they have no ships or weapons left. What about the people of Earth? What do they want? Claire pulled up the latest polls from Earth. 60% want complete destruction of the Zephyrian Empire. 30% want permanent human control over all alien worlds. Only 10% want any form of negotiated peace. Daniel understood why. Every human family had been affected by this war. Millions of their people had died fighting aliens who had started the conflict by murdering their beloved president. The desire for revenge was natural, but Catherine Bell had not been a natural leader. She had been an extraordinary one. Bring in the alien representatives, Daniel said finally. The doors opened and 12 aliens entered the chamber. These were the survivors of the old Galactic Council, the ones who had voted to kill Catherine Bell. They looked broken and afraid. Their mighty civilizations had been reduced to begging for survival. Chancellor Vexmore, the Zephyrian leader who had ordered the assassination, could barely stand. His 4 arms shook as he approached the human president. President Cross, he said in a voice like broken glass, we surrender completely. We ask only that you spare our civilians. They did not choose this war. You are right, Daniel said. They did not choose this war. You did. You chose to murder a woman who came to you in peace. You chose to broadcast her death across the galaxy as a threat. You chose to underestimate what humans would do when you hurt our family. We were wrong, admitted another alien, one of the crystal beings. We thought your species would fragment without strong leadership. We did not understand that killing your leader would make every human into a leader. Daniel walked closer to the alien delegation. Do you know what President Bell's last words were? The aliens shook their heads. She told Commander Morrison that humans do not forgive and do not forget. She was right about the second part. We will never forget what you did, but she was wrong about the first part. He gestured to Dr. Park, who approached with the Bell device. This weapon can destroy your homeworlds in minutes. One human ship with this device could eliminate your entire species. We built it because we wanted you to understand the price of threatening humanity. The aliens stared at the device in terror. Several of them began to cry. But we are not going to use it. Daniel continued. Not today. Not ever, if you follow the new rules. He handed the device back to Dr. Park, who locked it in a secure case. From this day forward, there will be no more Galactic Council. There will be no more independent alien empires. You will all live under the protection and authority of the Human Federation, but you will live. Chancellor Vexmore looked confused. You are not going to destroy us? President Bell believed that different species could live together in peace. You killed her for that belief. Now you will live under the peace she wanted to build. The difference is that this time, humans will be in charge of keeping it. Daniel turned to his military leaders. Admiral Cole, establish human governors on every alien world. General Watson, your forces will maintain order but will not harm civilians unless they threaten human authority. Commander Morrison, your intelligence network will watch for any signs of rebellion, but the aliens will be allowed to live their lives as long as they obey human law. What should we call this new government? Admiral Cole asked. Daniel thought about Catherine's dream of a united galaxy. She had wanted cooperation between equals. That dream had died with her, but perhaps something better could be built from its ashes. Call it the Bell Accords, he said. Catherine Bell wanted peace. Now the galaxy will have peace, but it will be our peace, enforced by our strength for as long as humans exist. He walked back to the window and looked out at the alien city below. In the distance, he could see human ships patrolling the skies. Earth's flag flew from every government building. Children of a dozen different species played in parks protected by human soldiers. It was not the peace Catherine had dreamed of, but it was peace nonetheless. "Sir," Commander Morrison said quietly, "do you think President Bell would approve of what we have done?" Daniel was quiet for a long moment. She would have preferred friendship to conquest, but she also would have understood that some species only respect strength. We gave them a chance to be our friends. They chose to be our enemies. Now they will be our subjects. And if they rebel, Daniel looked at the bell device in Dr. Park's hands. Then they will learn why humans do not forget. Years later, historians would mark this day as the beginning of the human age. The galaxy that had once been ruled by dozens of different species was now united under one flag. There were no more wars between worlds. There were no more genocides or slave markets. There was only peace, enforced by the species that had proven what happened when you hurt their family. In schools across 1,000 worlds, alien children learned about President Catherine Bell. They learned that she had wanted to be their friend, and that her own people had loved her enough to conquer the galaxy when she was murdered. They learned that humans kept their promises, whether those promises were for peace or for war. And they learned to be very, very careful about which promise they earned.